Welcome everybody. Oh, Brian's here, yay. Those that are joining us, you're welcome to open up your chat bar at the bottom there. We'll have that going for just a little while. And then, tell us where you're coming from. Tell us about your ministries. Tell us where you're joining us from. We'd love to connect a little with you here. Hi, Brian.
So I see we have Niru from just over the river from me in Arlington.
Oh yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Seeing a lot of familiar names, I love it. We have the fabulous Timon. Excellent, thanks for joining us, Timon. Oh, Star's here. Oh, hi, Star. I wave off into the virtual land. Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
And for those who want to know who's joining or whatever, if you click on the participants, I think everyone has a participants thing. So you can see Tracy isn't just saying hello to just random people, but she's looking at the participant list, which is growing.
Which one never knows, though. If I'm talking to random people. Let's be real. Welcome Mercedes from Cedar Lake. Welcome. Hi Veronica, University Parish, Newman Center, Kent State. Wonderful. Welcome Veronica. Oh, Carrie, one of my students is here. Hi Carrie. Vicky's here. Woo!
So Vicky and Mercedes. So Mercedes is actually she's coming to us from Cedar Lake. I saw, which is actually where I'm from.
Oh, neat.
That's where I grew up. So good to see you.
Welcome John from San Francisco. Welcome. Hi Carrie. I miss having you in class. I had Carrie in my summer class. We had a great time. James is here. Hi, James. Archdiocese of New Orleans. Sarah, Sean, Ruth. Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. We'll give it just another maybe minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and get started today. Welcome, everybody.
We're just excited to see people coming in. And
yeah. Start to see familiar names and faces. It feels like home when you're in your own home. Get it? No? Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Well.
Can you tell? I've been alone all day.
The pandemic is getting to you.
A little bit, I think. Either that or it's this harvest moon, like full moon thing we have going on. I think it's bringing out a little bit of the, silliness in me. Thanks, Timon.
So for those who are joining us, just, if you're in for a conversation with family and friends here. We're going to be talking about the upcoming holiday season. So, which is often spent with family and friends. So we're going to try and make it as comfortable as possible for you. At least we hope we will.
Welcome, everybody. Well, what do you think, folks? You want to get started? Give it another minute, or you want to get started?
No, I got nothing else for the rest of the hour except to be here. So let's get into it.
The upcoming Halloween season, yes, Brian. Halloween, absolutely, and All Saints Day.
Hi, Matt. Also from my Cedar Lake. I just love my people.
Your hometown representation.
My hometown folks are representing. I love it.
Welcome, Carolina.
Who would have thought?
Germantown, PA. Wonderful.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
All right, that sounds good to me. Well, folks, we're excited to have you all with us here today. We've got a really wonderful a really wonderful and engaging presentations for y'all today. This is Advent already, when we were trying to discern, you know, what to do, where to go with our next webinars, and looking at the surveys that you all kindly submit to us. You know, we were really thinking that, oh my gosh, it's Advent already. So we literally just made that the title, because I think we're all just kind of, you know, trying to figure out whatever a new normal is, or wherever we're going in life, and realizing we have a whole new liturgical season to celebrate. And so what does it mean, especially to celebrate Advent and prepare for you know, the birth of our Lord with young adults? And so at the parish and at home, you know, especially. So welcome again to our USCCB National Advisory Team on Young Adult Ministry National Webinar. I am joined today by 4 wonderful presenters. First, we have Colin, who is the Young Adult Director of Young Adult Outreach for the Archdiocese of New York. He was a seminarian for 7 years before discerning that Jesus and Mary were calling him elsewhere. As a seminarian, he received his BA in theology from Sacred Heart University and his Master's of Divinity from Mount St. Mary's Seminary. He also worked with Generation Life in Philadelphia as a theology of the body, chastity, and pro-life speaker, and was theology of the body for teens trainer for Ascension Press. He also is a member of the USCCB National Advisory Team on Young Adult Ministry with us, and considers his life and mission to help the Blessed Virgin Mary's Immaculate Heart triumph as she promised in Fatima. So welcome, Colin.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be on.
Grateful to have you. Next, we have Sister Bernadette. She is a Salesian sister of St. John Bosco and has a special place in her heart for accompanying young adults on their faith journey. Her ministry experience includes young adult ministry, high school and college campus ministry, athletics, faith formation and development, and is presently serving as the Province Director of Mission and Advancement in San Antonio, Texas. And she is our newest member, one of our newest members at NatYam. So welcome, Sister Bernadette.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Barbara. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. She received her MTS with a concentration in liturgical studies from the University of Notre Dame. And from there, she moved into parish life, and she is currently at St. John Eudes. Say that for me, Barbara. I'm not saying it right.
St. John Eudes.
Oh, I was really close. I just go phonetic with everything. It's really bad. And so, as a parish in that parish in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, and she is Director of Evangelization, Liturgy, and Formation. So thank you for joining us, Barbara. And then last, never least, we have Nick Stein. He is the coolest. He goes by being super rad, so he says. No, yes, no, maybe? Told you I'd do it. He currently directs the Bon Secours Young Adults, an intentional outreach of the Congregation of Sisters of Bon Secours, and based in Marysville, Maryland. He's married to Samantha and has 3 children. And he served as the first chairperson for the USCCB National Advisory Team on Young Adult Ministry. And he has served as minister in Los Angeles, Boston, Richmond, Virginia, Baltimore, and originally comes from the Pacific Northwest and holds an MA in theology from Boston College. So welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Tracy.
Great to have you. And then we obviously have the fabulous Paul Jarzembowski, who works for the USCCB, the Conference of Bishops, is the Assistant Director for Youth and Young Adult Ministries in the Secretariat of Marriage, Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth. Paul also serves as staff liaison for the USCCB National Advisory Team on Young Adult Ministry and the National Institute for Young Adult with young adults. I'm saying all that wrong. Just ignore me. And then we're also joined today by Brenda Noriega. She's also a NetYam member, and she works for Mission Educator. She's the Mission Educator Promoter with Mary Knoll Fathers and Brothers. And she's kind of in our background today, helping out with our chat bar and our technology things, all the things that I typically fail at. So welcome, Brenda. We're really grateful for your time and your ministry here today. And then I'm Tracy Lamont. I'm Assistant Professor of Religious Education and Youth and Young Adult Ministry at the Loyola Institute for Ministry at Loyola University in New Orleans. And I am also the Vice Chair of Resources for the USCCB National Advisory Team for Young Adult Ministry. So welcome to everyone who is joining us here today. We are very excited to have you all. And we are really going to set up, and Paul, feel free to chime in. We're going to set up a wonderful conversation with our presenters today on how we might start really preparing for Advent. We have time now. This is, we have a good amount of time to really do some front end work to prepare ministry with young adults through Advent. So go ahead, Paul.
No, it's quite all right. Thank you. And, I think it's interesting that we've kind of been able to name the illustrious talent that we have talking with us today. And you might sit there and say, that's a lot of people. And you spent 50% of this entire webinar just introducing them because they have such a great amount of resumes. That's great. But part of the reason why is because we wanted to have a real conversation with people at different experiences of the church. We've got somebody who works in the diocese, somebody who works at a parish. We've got somebody who works in a religious community, two people who work in religious communities in different types of roles. And I think that that's part of our engagement with young adults happens at every level. So whether we're engaging young adults in any of those dimensions, we're all going to be kind of advancing towards Advent together. And we chose, again, like Tracy was saying, we chose this because, we often think about, usually it's about the week before Thanksgiving that we go, oh yeah, we should start preparing for Advent. And we thought that webinar for November might be a little too late. It's good, especially this year. We are now, we have Advent this year will be different than Advent any other year. It will be, in a way, because 2020 is different than pretty much any other year. And so because of that, we wanted to have a conversation around what we can do spiritually, what we can do practically in our ministries with young adults in whatever form it takes, and have a conversation with these people. So the first thing I'd like to kind of kick us off with is, how do you think Advent and Christmas will be different this year? I mean, as you're looking at it, what do you think is going to be different? How do you think what's going to have to be that thing we're going to have to adjust for in 2020 that we may not have had to adjust for in previous years? So I am going to just pick somebody, and since he has his microphone off, I'm going to pick on Nick to start us off, and then others just chime in, and we'll go back and forth and have a little fun with this.
Yeah, I think the first thing that's going to be different that we just need to recognize, especially with the young adult population, is there's going to be a lot less travel. So, where people would have gone home, wherever home is, there's a lot of people around this country that will be wherever their normal home is and not go home to parents or aunts and uncles. There's going to be a lot more people who will be in their, at their normal place of residence, and a lot more people having these holidays alone or in much smaller groups. So I think that's the first reality just to remember about these upcoming holidays, is that a lot of people where, you would expect people to be coming home to your parish, they won't be coming home to your parish because they'll be at, wherever they are. So that's a reality just to be mindful of as we move into this season.
I would say, along with the, people being at home, this time of Advent, this time of waiting and expectation, it's natural for us all right now to just be waiting in expectation for whatever will come next in our life. So to integrate that into faith and what's going on in the world today, that's a beautiful thing to do. Instead of, saying, we're all waiting for things to open, say, well, how can we integrate this into where we're at in our prayer life, in our community, of our young adult community, in our faith community? How can we wait and anticipate together whatever God has for us now and in the future? And so for us all, it will look different. We're going to be in small groups. People are going to be by themselves. And how can we reach out to people in that reality where, for the good of all, we can't be in large groups. We can't do the things that we normally would like to do. So we're going to have to do it differently, but still with that same love, that same intensity, and that same hope of expectation, which is part of the Advent season.
Yeah, one challenge I think we're all going to be facing is that, a lot of stuff is still kind of up in the air in the sense, what is November going to look like? What is December going to look like with COVID? And so when we're playing, it's not like for our diocese, usually we have our big uh, mass with Cardinal Dolan. Now, as of right now, that's still in place, but it's just like when you start planning your events to kind of have that in mind, being like, can we easily switch it to virtual if we need to, or just keep it in person? So there's going to be a lot more challenges like that. Just recognizing we don't know what the country's going to look like in 2 months with everything that's going on, and just to have that in mind when you're planning stuff.
Yeah, Colin, I was actually thinking of you in that because, Lent happened at the height of Lent and Easter. I know New York was really hit pretty hard at that time of year. So you're kind of no stranger to being kind of having to adjust a little bit on the fly there, because you were one of the first hotspots and that was right during a liturgical season too.
Yeah. And now it's like, we've been through it and we know what
Yeah.
it looks like. And so now there is an expectation of like, okay, if this happens again, we have things now in place. Okay, we can easily switch to virtual if we need to, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of Colin and Sister Bernadette, that idea of joyful anticipation. We know we wait in joy for the birth of our Lord during this Advent season, but a lot of the questions that I've been getting is how can we experience this joy when so many people are still suffering during this pandemic? How do we reconcile those two together? We talked about, it's kind of been a long Lent, right? This kind of heightened during Lent. Easter was a very secluded type of celebration. But how do we reconcile this joyful anticipation? How can we relate it to the lived experience that we are going through now? And going off of what Colin said, it's really important to have contingency plans, especially if you're working at a parish. We had to pivot so many times. I always joke, I'm going to have master pivoter on my resume after this pandemic is over, because we've had to, shift our mindset so much.
Mm-hmm.
And the reminder to be flexible, right? Right now, we can't take old models and plop them into a digital format and expect things to work. This is a chance for us to play, to be innovative, to be creative. But just to remember that we have to be flexible, we have to have contingency plans, and just, dance with the Holy Spirit, see where the Spirit is taking us, and, just continue to remain positive throughout the entire thing, even throughout the difficulties.
And I think too that there's and I love the way you said that, Barbara, because while we can, and Colin as well, how we can pivot to different things here and there is a kernel in a nugget, of what we are hoping to do throughout this. So as long as the focus, I believe, remains on, the approach you're taking through Advent and the focus on, again, like how do we have joy amidst suffering, and things like that, no matter what it looks like, that will stay the same, like that will still be the message that comes out. So, and there's hope in that. That it doesn't matter if it's online, virtual, if it's fell apart at the last minute, that there's still some way of communicating that, so yeah, thank you.
Well, and specifically now with young adults, now, in different ways, many of you engage directly or indirectly with young adults in your work. So young adults have kind of approached the pandemic in their own way. I mean, there's a unique experience of the young adult reality in the midst of all of this. So, we talked in general about how Advent and Christmas are going to be a little different. But how is it specifically? How are we going to prepare the young adults in this midst? I mean, any thoughts of where you're already starting to think about? How are we going to engage the young adult population, perhaps that might be even different than maybe some other populations in all of this? And whoever wants to go can go.
We don't have to go in the same order, but I'll start off.
That's fine. No, that's perfectly fine. We're
No,
creatures of habit. We sit in the same pew.
Yeah.
We go to the same masses. We're Catholics. We get what that's all about. So please go ahead.
Yeah.
Start us again.
Sure. I think there's a couple of things that, I think are really critical for this piece of engaging young adults and preparing them. The first is just the intentionality of the invitation to young adults. It needs to be explicit and it needs to be over communicated that young adults are being invited. And that's easier in some places than others, but I think no matter where you are and what context you are, that over communication about what are the offerings and what are specific offerings for young adults are really important this year. When we don't have the normal modes of communication that we've relied on in the past, when we know that people aren't necessarily there at Mass for announcements, you have to be very intentional about how you're getting the message out about what they can go to, what you're offering them, how you're going to show them that they are important this year. And it has to be really intentional.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, I think the intentionality is very key, simply because we a lot in parish life, we focus a lot on the youth, so confirmation, sacramental prep, and then there are processes and programs, so to speak, for the more mature adults. But the young adults in the middle, we're sometimes left on the sidelines. We're living a different life. Some of us are just starting college. Some of us are leaving college and seeking careers. Some of us are getting married and starting families. So we're all in very unique transitory positions in our lives. So making sure that invitation is made personally catered to them, to show them that, hey, we're still here. We're offering you this support. We're offering you this program, we're offering you this process. Please come and have a conversation with us. So a lot of what's coming up is, give us a chance. We have to give young adults a chance to be a part of that faith journey and their faith life, coming from a context where they're able to share what they're going through. And how does that apply to their faith? Because the faith of my mother is different than mine. The faith of my grandmother is different than mine. The faith of my kids is going to be different than mine. So how are we able to hold that sacred space for them and show them that they're able to open up and we're able to receive that? So I think the intentionality, Nick, is of the utmost importance.
And you can see that so strongly in, like that second layer of intentionality you were talking about, Nick, is like making sure young adults know they are invited to this, but then recognizing all of the journeys that they are on, and maybe even naming explicitly, those of you that are married, newlywed, whoever you are of this age group, you are welcome. Really maybe naming their realities in your communication. That's, instead of just saying young adult, yeah.
And just to build off what everything's been said, it's just kind of targeting the age group. So having specific events or virtual opportunities, or targeting these is for those and young adults from this age to this age. And so anything that you guys anybody can do to foster that and target that direct audience with an event or virtual opportunity.
Right. And I think it's also going off of what you're saying there, Colin, it's the targeting is bringing faith into their homes, right? It's not necessarily about inviting them to something. That can work in some areas of the country, in some settings, but everywhere it can work that you go to them. And it doesn't, and that's not just virtually coming into, people's homes via Zoom meetings, though that's a great thing to do as well. But, you need to be very intentional about what are the offerings that we can send out to people to prepare them for Advent and prepare them for Christmas and to help them celebrate on their own. So I think there's that intentionality of going into where people are that is part of this, life in pandemic.
A few other things that I would recommend. One would be to, if you do have some young adults who are already pretty engaged in your ministry, to ask them during this time of Advent, what do they need? Because the more you ask them and get them involved, the more involved they will be in the process. So really go out and ask a few of them, virtually ask them on the phone, text, whatever it is. Ask them, what do they need? Because I know when people ask you, then you want to join in because then you gave your contribution. But if we're just creating things without asking them what do they need, there's less of that involvement. The other thing would be to really integrate culture into the celebrations throughout Advent. During Advent you have the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Integrate that into your celebration to see how you can, if that's part of the culture of the area that you're in. So depending on the culture that you're located, integrate the different feasts and the celebrations during that time. And then any other feast days that come up too during Advent. to see how you can put those as a focal point during your Advent preparations too. But I would say, like I said before, really ask the young adults who are in your ministry what will help them, because I've seen that time and time again. The more you ask them and get them involved, the more they'll partake, and it will be fruitful for them. And so yes, ask.
Well, and Sister Bernadette, your recommendation of really tapping into the cultural aspects, because Advent's a time of year, Christmas is a time of year where the reality of culture, of how we enter into these there's a tradition. I mean, you know, many of us who grew up with something, you know, some tradition around Advent and Christmas, whether it's the tree, the presents, or if it's the church that you know that we went to, the celebrations we had, the songs we sang, you know. So there's connections to traditions. So tapping into that, I've been kind of thinking to myself, and I've been doing it myself. That you know, when we're in this lockdown, Nick was talking about, we're all going to be at home this year, and what are people doing a lot? They're kind of there's a lot of makeovers in the home, you know, like we're kind of like, well, since I'm here, I'm going to go pick up these boxes in the attic and like, look at these pictures I haven't looked at, because we're always going out. Well, if we're stuck being in, you know, that's some of the things people have been doing, or if they haven't been doing it, what a great opportunity to kind of help people tap into those traditions that they grew up with, those cultural traditions that they grew up with, connecting into what's your story, what's your family history. And if you don't know it, what a great opportunity to kind of ask. Have a Zoom call with your extended family. Where do we come from? What's our story? And so I think you can really, the cultural aspects, I think, can actually be amplified with this domestic church experience, because we are at home. So those are some things we can do. And Sister Bernadette, thank you for kind of raising up a couple of ideas. And I want to actually ask, and we've asked our team here to kind of come up with a couple of killer ideas. Like, what can we do? Because, you know, when you turn into these webinars, you know, it's great to have the conversation, to get the mind thinking. But some of you are like, I've got the pen and paper here. What's one good idea? So Sister Bernadette, thank you for giving us one of the first ideas here. But I want to ask some of our other panelists, what idea or ideas, don't go too long, but what ideas do you have that maybe we can kind of write down and think, I never thought about that. You know, maybe something that you're thinking of trying, you have done. Maybe last time you were in a pandemic, you tried this. I'm joking, of course, because we're allowed in.
Maybe it was an epidemic. It's our first pandemic in a long time. Maybe it was epidemic.
Weren't you alive in 1918, 1919?
Whoa, Mr. Paul.
I know I was.
I know, you're older than me also.
Yeah. All right, so who wants to give some good ideas here? See, again, we're having a little fun. I think somebody said before, you know, we're kind of stirring some of the fun. Timon had said that.
She wrote the point of play, and I'm going to say that before we get into this, because it's it piggybacks off what you were saying, Paul, is the point of play. She wrote in the Q&A that we should have fun with our faith journey. I mean, we should, you know, and even amidst challenging times, we can always find a way to, well, I believe we can always find a way to laugh and to have joy. So go ahead, Frank. What are some ideas that we have?
So one thing that our parish discerned for Advent, we had a Lenten series that was unfortunately cut short because of the pandemic. And we were journeying for Lent in the 5 wounds of Christ. That was what we were reflecting on. So for this year, we were talking a little bit about culture a few minutes ago, and we've been meditating and pondering upon what it means to be truly enculturated, what it means to be bilingual, multilingual, not in just a language sense, but just the essence of who we are as a community. So we have discerned that we want to use the posadas, which is predominantly known in Hispanic culture as the journey of Mary and Joseph finding a refuge for Mary to give birth to Jesus. And they were going to several different places to ask for that hospitality. But we were thinking, and we're still kind of mapping it out, but of having 9 different experiences leading up to Christmas. And we're hoping to get the different ministries involved. So young adults in the community creating an experience around that. So the children's ministry creating an experience around that. and have it be in a virtual setting, of course. But that allows different areas of the community to get involved and to have fun and be creative with it, because each journey is so different and so specific. But how beautiful that we're able to bring in a cultural practice and apply it across the entire community. So I think this time, especially, it's so important to remain united in so many different ways, and to really integrate all, the young adults, the children, those that speak Tagalog, those that speak Spanish, and have it be a community event. So we're hoping to do something like that, where we're able to create 9 different experiences of what it means to seek refuge or seek hospitality during this time of anticipation and waiting. So that's just an idea that we've come up with and that I was really eager to share. And it would be great to see how other people would apply it to their own communities if they decide to have a type of series.
That's neat. That's neat.
Yeah, that's awesome, Barbara. I can't wait to see what what 9 things you come up with are. Something that I've been really thinking about here is giving service opportunities, right? I think that one of the things that young adults can really enter into this season through service opportunities, both in Advent and in the Christmas season. And that can happen through, delivery of gifts or drives of some sort. It'd be very easy to have your young adults at the parish be in charge of delivering Advent wreaths to older parishioners, right, who might pick them up from some other place. But you can always do some of these things digitally as well, right? You can have digital Advent service calendars. You can have digital giving trees, right? A lot of parishes would have giving trees in the back of their sanctuary, and you pick up an ornament. It's not hard to turn that into a digital giving tree. So I think those are some really important things that we can think through, is what are the service opportunities we can give to the young adults to enter into this season as well.
Thanks, Nick. And one thing we're going to try to do in our archdiocese is to really help young adults during Advent to just grow in their relationship with the Blessed Virgin Mary. In Advent, we're celebrating, and with the great expectation. I mean, Jesus is very literally, of course, like in the womb of Mary, still growing and being formed. And with, St. Louis de Montfort would talk about through Marian consecration that there's 2 ways, what's the whole job of the Blessed Virgin Mary is to form us into other Christs, to form our hearts into the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And St. Louis de Montfort would talk about there's 2 ways of forming a sculptor. You can either do a pickaxe and like a nail, or you can do a mold. And he talks about how Our Lady's womb is the perfect mold to forming in another Christ. And so we're going to try to encourage young adults to consecrate themselves to Our Lady, either using the 33-day formula from St. Louis de Montfort, and there's also 33 Days to Morning Glory that Father Gately put together. And it works out nicely this year, where Advent starts on November 29th, and that actually is the first day of a 33-day consecration, which would end on the Mother of God on January 1st. So Informed out there has got a great program where you can do small group discussions and within that. And so we're going to be doing that, and then hopefully just other type of virtual events or in-person events of just helping people to grow in their relationship with the Blessed Virgin Mary.
I would also encourage that, Nick, you were talking about Advent wreaths. You could also do like an Advent wreath party on virtually, making one together virtually. And then if it's a group of young adults, they could bring those wreaths to elderly people in your parish community or to families in need. Or even like at Christmas time, you have your nativity scene. Encourage people to really deck out their nativity scene, whether it's outside their house or inside, and share maybe on your social media pages those nativity scenes that people are doing in their own homes, because they can't have people into their home, but they could share with the people their little areas that they've created in during this Advent season. So those are some hands-on things that will be a lot of fun too. And then in addition to that, I would say see how you can collaborate with other groups. Barbara, you were talking about that in your parish. You're going to get different groups collaborate together. And it could be within your parish, outside your parish. That's one thing that we're doing as our sisters community right now, because we have sisters all over the country, but we can't see each other physically, but we're doing a lot of ministry together in different states. And we're reaching young adults and youth that way in ways that we normally wouldn't be able to, but now we are able to. So we have some groups that are doing online ministry together from California to Texas to Colorado, and we're all working together for young adults, which, like I said before, it wasn't happening the same way. So see how you can collaborate with other groups, other parishes, other ministries. There's a lot of possibility right now for that during this, especially during this Advent season.
Right, and Sister Bernadette, just going off of that collaborative piece, I think, you know, in line with Fratelli Tutti and global solidarity, I think it's, you know, if people have collaborative opportunities with sister parishes in other countries, get those young adults from those parishes together with young adults in your parish. You know I have a collaborative relationship with parishes in Haiti and El Salvador and India. How can you make those connections as well to really put in our global solidarity to life, how to bring that to life?
Yeah, in a way that's, you know, we can do that a little bit more now in a digital age. We can actually celebrate Advent and Christmas with people from different parts of the globe, maybe even other parts of our diocese or our area that we may not normally, that may not be how we celebrate Advent and Christmas normally. You know, we don't, you know, but this was a great opportunity to kind of lean into that concept of a sister parish that we might have, or a, you know, or a particular mission that we are focused on. You know, there may be a particular apostolate or mission that your parish is really focused on, and what an opportunity to celebrate with that apostolate. You know, I mean, I think it's kind of great that we even have on this call, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got parish, diocese, religious communities, organizations, academic institutions. So like just right here, you kind of have a mix of, you know, we can kind of, you can, you know, who are the religious communities in your area? Who are the educational institutions in your area? What apostolates or organizations? I mean, think of all the different ways that you can kind of mix and match. Barbara, you were going to say something, I think so.
Yeah, no. So for parishes that are able to have mass or meet in person, so to speak, whether it's indoor, outdoor, I know it just depends on the area of the country where you're at. But in our case, we have a beautiful plaza outside where we're having mass, and we have an adjoining parking lot so we can spread out as much as we want. So we're actually having a young adult worship night where we're inviting our neighboring parishes from the region of San Fernando Valley to join us for that night for a young adult mass, followed by adoration, so some quiet time with Jesus, but also some time for praise and worship. And at the end, having some type of fellowship where we're able to have small faith talks within small groups. And luckily our plaza is big enough that we're able to keep the 6 feet social distance. And we're also able to kind of group in smaller circles to have those conversations. And that's one of the things that we're hoping to do for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles as a whole, is to create more regional pods, so to speak. So that way we can come together with our neighboring parishes. Because we don't know each other. We really don't know each other. So for opportunities that you're able to do in person, linking it to a liturgical experience, that is also very important to be able to rein them in person if you are able to do so safely. And safely is the key word as we're still going through this pandemic. So if you're at a university level, I see Sean Allen. I'm familiar with him. He's in South Bend, Indiana. I was there at Notre Dame. So if there are opportunities to engage universities and the young adults in those universities, great, reach out to them because I'm sure they're searching for something right now as well.
Colin, I see you.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, just from my experience so far, is that I noticed a lot of groups and people are kind of gun shy of doing anything. And so I just want to say, do something, like in the sense that don't be of course, follow all the safety protocols, right, everything that the state is asking in that particular area. But don't be afraid to do something, because don't worry about numbers, don't worry about, and of course worry about, in the sense of COVID, with following the protocols, but do something. I just really encourage people to.
Yeah, and I wonder, Barbara, you were kind of making me smile. I was thinking about in Los Angeles, I think around Christmas, yes, I think we could probably do stuff outside. But now I'm thinking, I got my friends here from Northwest Indiana, and I can tell you, December in Northern Indiana, there's a lot of lake effect cold and
Oh,
wind
don't
right
I know
there.
it?
So if outdoor isn't an option, although as nice as it might be to maybe get out, what do we, how can we maybe help? I don't know if maybe some of us from more northern climates might want to think about how do we still do, the indoor things with the proper safety things for Advent and Christmas? Because that's, I mean, obviously the domestic experience, the virtual experience, but for those places that are going to have that do allow, or, you have the protocols in place for indoor, are there some things that can be done that, what can you do 6 feet apart from each other, or 10 feet or however wide you want to be. I don't know, any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Nick, I see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing there is lean into music, right? It's the Advent season, it's Christmas carols, but lean into music. Do a Taizé service. That's something you can very easily do and sit 20 feet apart and have, actually probably a better experience than if you're right next to somebody. So there's certain, musical experiences that can really help. I know the Vigil Project is a band out of Louisiana that has a great Advent series coming up. So, I mean, I think that you just lean into some of the traditions that we're used to, but you can do those things safely. And don't forget food, right? I mean, I think it's the holidays. Christmas cookies are really important. And those are things that you can also do, it safely, not, in close quarters. Right, but you can have some of those. But yeah,
and I think we will certainly want to keep in mind, even because obviously singing, that obviously the exhaling and stuff like that can be a certain. So certainly when you do that, keep that in mind as well. So like if you need to like face the choir, and if they're all singing, sing in a direction that's not facing everyone, keep people's masks on and stuff like that. So we certainly want to keep a lot of those
yeah, and I think you can even do recorded music.
I was gonna say play recorded music. Yeah,
you can play recorded music. I think that's
easy,
especially
great.
With something like Taizé, where it's really about the entering into the prayer and the mantra of it. There's no reason that you have to have live music and people, it's not a singing event. So there's ways you can be really creative about entering into this stuff.
Thank you. No, thank you.
And Nick, I want to ask you to, if you wouldn't mind, one of the things you had mentioned when we were talking about this earlier this week was kind of you mentioned love languages and you mentioned gift giving, and I wonder, he disappeared. No, there's another bug in his office. That's what it is. He had mentioned.
We'll ask him when he gets back.
It was about gifts. So remind me to bring that up again. He was like, Tracy's talking, I'm out of here.
It's it really is like Advent, when one is in the field and one is taken and one is left behind, not the hour nor the day of the Lord's coming. Nick has been taken up, I guess.
But also, Sister Bernadette, I was going to ask you, we were talking about Advent wreaths. We were talking about, doing that in one another's homes. And it reminded me, it just totally, remind me back to when our first stay-at-home orders really hit before the summer back in, March, whatever month it even is right now. But that there was a lot, I wound up meeting through James, who's on our webinar right now. He's our Archdiocesan director here. He had a Christus Vivit, virtual session going. I forget what it was called. I think it was Christus Vivit, y'all. Tell me what it was, James. I forget. But in doing that, I met a lot of young adults locally here that were kind of starting their own. There was like the Catholic couch community. I'm saying that wrong, but it was just this couple that wanted to start prayer from their couches. And then I also remembered that when we did do things in person, there was a young adult group at one of our parishes, without a young adult minister, but they were just forming their own, kind of Lenten series a year ago. And so now I'm wondering if we could maybe provide resources for them. Sister Bernadette, you had mentioned, that people that could be speakers. So I lift that up to you.
Yes, so we have, especially within the virtual realm, we have a number of sisters within our province that would be happy to be guest speakers for your young adult ministries, for your groups. And for us, that's a joy to be able to come and have a sister speak for you. So if you would like that, just feel free to reach out. You can put my email in the chat. So yeah, just reach out to me and let me know what you're looking for, and then we can see which sister might be able to help you on that. And yeah, so however we can reach out to you, we're more than happy to. And then there might be other religious in your area too, who maybe would be happy to do that. Maybe other priests would be thrilled to go and do an online talk with a small group. And with that too, I really do encourage, you're saying like a small group book study or Bible study, especially during the Advent season. Small groups are great. But if you would like to do that within your own area, have I know of a young adult group that started from another group that we formed. And these two ladies who are in their 20s, they got together and they started a group for college girls because their college campus ministry wasn't doing anything right now. Mm-hmm. So they took it upon themselves. They're not diocesan directors. They're just young adults with heart and drive. And so they're leading a young adult group right now. And they asked us, hey, sister, can you come and speak to our group in a couple weeks? And we said, sure, we'd be happy to. So I'm going to speak to them online, from my office. And they're about 2 hours away from where I'm at here in Texas. So yeah, we can reach out to you wherever you are. And then at the same time, maybe possibly reach out to other groups too, if you know of some speakers that could do something, small. You're not going to contract them out to be working for you, on a long time basis or anything like that. And most of them do it for free. Doing a small little talk doesn't cost us anything. So we're happy to do that. And yeah, so I just encourage you to look to your local religious communities, priests, deacons, people who maybe would be happy to share with your community. And like I said, we're happy to have some sisters available to speak to your young adult groups. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much for that. And there's also, we talked with other people involved in religious life, committed to religious life that don't have as much to do right now because of the stay-at-home orders, that their ministries that were so focused in person, they haven't been called on to do much of that. And so it might be a really beautiful time for an intergenerational, vocational conversations. I mean, a really beautiful time to just lift up the souls of those that were so used to being very heavily involved in ministry and maybe aren't now, and to ask for their help, Yes. Thank you, Sister Bernadette.
Well, we even have and also one of the things thank you for Kelly Reynolds in the chat, who made a great recommendation actually. Yep. We're approaching the election season, but Advent will be just beyond it, or will it? I don't know. But one of the encouragements of our faithful citizenship conversation last month was that in a way our call to civic engagement doesn't end at the election. Like on November 4th, we don't surrender and say, all right, well, for another 3 years and 11 months, I'm gonna, I'll kind of stay back until I participate in the political process again. No, we're supposed to be engaged every year, every month. And so having, and she was talking about her collaborating with her library, her community library on the Civilize It campaign that, in the area. So what a great thing to do. And probably in December, in January, February, we're probably going to need to keep reminding ourselves. I don't think that after November 3rd, we're suddenly going to just all, there'll still be a need for a Civilize It kind of campaign to really encourage dialogue and conversation and brotherhood, really speaking brotherhood, sisterhood, as Pope Francis laid out in Fratelli Tutti. So you can kind of combine the Civilize It and the encyclical conversation on social responsibility and social engagement together. That would be a great thing to do for Advent. So it's not even Christmassy, but that's something that we can certainly do in the Advent season that will be very topical for people, and people will want to engage it. But also collaborating with not even a Catholic institution, but even your local community. Are there places in the local community that you can engage with that might be good? So I just wanted to just mention that idea from Kelly that's in the chat. But before Nick left, Tracy, you had a question for Nick, and he ran away from us when you asked.
And I was like, oh man, We lost him. I was going to ask, because you were talking about Christmas cookies and giving virtual giving wreaths, and you had mentioned something, Nick, on our last conversation together about like kind of love languages and gift giving and how to maybe reclaim gift giving from the consumer side, you know, and you know, the hype over consumerism and, you know, Black Friday or whatever, you know, and maybe you can speak more to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that in this time, right, we have been cut off from a number of the love languages, if people understand that book from a few years ago. But one of the ones we haven't been cut off from is gift giving. And I think it's really important that is a way that we can show our young adults how much we care for them. And that, I mean, gift giving could be as simple as a Christmas card, right, that you get in the mail. But it could also be, you know, care package of some sort that they get from your ministry, from your parish. So I think that yes, I'm not saying to hype up the, you know, Black Friday sales. That I hate those.
Right.
But I think it is really important that we do show our young adults love in the ways that we really can right now, when we can't give them quality time the same way we probably could have last year. And so that's what I wanted, you know, just how can you be creative? It doesn't have to, you don't have to have a huge budget to give some really meaningful gifts to your young adults.
And you could have a committee, you know, like just get a bunch of older volunteers, even people that don't have a lot to do, to write cards, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes
cards.
the other way as well, right? Like, and it's part of those acts of service is the other side of that gift giving. With how can you get your young adults to write cards to all of your local nursing home residents, or all of the local healthcare workers, right? What are the ways that you can do to promote, you know, really good, loving gift giving on the other side?
That's beautiful.
With that, like for example, the house that I live in right now, it's our headquarters, our provincial house, but right next to it is our retirement home for our sisters. And when people send them cards, they absolutely love it. And they put those cards on their dressers and they pray for those people. So there might be those sisters, those retired priests in your area too. Think of them, because I know our sisters, they get so excited when they get cards from young people, from families, and from, you know, from people, even if they don't know them, they just get super excited. Yeah, elderly sisters are so cute. Yeah, so and they love it. So
I think Pope Francis even wrote exactly that in like one of his encyclicals. He's like, you know, the elderly religious sister smile on her face, I think.
So yeah, I know, like in your area, or even your priest need your prayers. They really do need your prayers. Write them cards at Christmas time and tell them how much you appreciate them. Your church leadership, they need your prayers and your support. So that could be another way to reach out to them.
And then even Nick even saying I think the healthcare workers, but who are the essential workers in your community? Many of them, and then many of them are young adults, and maybe they may not even be active in the community, in your parish community, but they are active in your community. So are there ways that you can send messages to some of your essential workers who are young adults? You know, how can we engage, for instance, the you know, and essential workers are the healthcare workers, but they're also that Amazon delivery. What's that?
Amazon grocery store.
I was gonna say,
Amazon
the grocery
delivery.
store, that Amazon delivery person that's coming to your door now a little more frequently than they used to. You know, like those are many of those people. Like, how can we, especially during this season, you know, what a good reminder to people to how much they're appreciated. And that might, you know, it's a way to also show the pastoral care that the church loves others, that the church, and you know, whether you're Catholic or not, whether you're in our community or not, we love you. We are grateful for you. For them to know the love of a Christian community, I think that will go so far. So maybe we can, maybe for, you know, I'm kind of curious, before we kind of close off, we wanted to give each of our panelists an opportunity to kind of say one last thing, maybe one more idea they thought of, or one kernel of inspiration that they have, but we wanted to give them one last chance to just kind of share with us a final thought as we kind of, you know, get our way. I mean, I know it's October, but November will be here, and then December, and then, you know, so before we kind of start thinking in our head what we're going to do, we're going to ask our panelists to kind of share one more thought that they might have. So In the order in which, since we're creatures of habit, I'm going to start with Nick since, he was our first, and then but actually I forgot what the order was last time, so you all just go however you want, but I'm picking on Nick to start.
Sure, absolutely. I want to actually respond to a question that Brenda threw out earlier in the chat, and it was, how do we call young adults to apostolate and to mission? And it's the same answer that I want to just give at the close here. Be concrete. Invite them to something specific, right? If you want to call your young adults into mission, don't say, hey, are you interested in service? So they'll say yes, and then nothing will happen. You need to invite them, hey, can you send this card next Tuesday, right? And I think the same is true for us in our Advent planning and our Christmas planning, especially this year. Do something, as Colin said, and do that one thing well. Take one of the 50 ideas that we talked about here and do that one thing and do it well and make it specific and call those young adults into mission that way. That gets things done.
I think it's important also just to be creative, right? Right now we're given the opportunity to engage in many different ways with people from across the country and across the globe. So don't be afraid to play, to really just get in there and gather those young adults who are talking about making sure that we get, we hear from them, gather them together and say, hey, how can we get creative this season? What is it that we can do for our community here? But don't be afraid, just take the plunge, go for it. And this is literally your time to think outside the box, because that's what we're all doing right now, is thinking outside the box, doing things that we never thought that we'd get to do or that we'd have to do. And of course, see the blessings in all of that, even through the challenges, because these are all blessings that we're getting in very hidden ways. So I encourage that playfulness. I encourage that creativity, and go with it. See where the Spirit is going to be taking you.
Yeah, from the past years, one of the best things that the ministry that I had been doing with young adults that we did during Advent time, we would do, and this would work great for right now, because if you can be outdoors and it's not too cold, I would say where I was in Colorado, we would do an Advent hike and mass, and we would all come bundled up and we'd hike together and bring a priest with us, and we'd have mass out in the good old outdoors in the woods, and it was great. And when the snow level was higher, we would do a snowshoe trip with mass and build our own altar out of snow and all that. I would do it in my full habit. Yeah, so
I love it.
Yeah, so I would be out there and we would do snowshoeing. It was exhausting, but it was epic. And to have mass in the snow and build your own altar, and you just have to find a priest that's willing to do that with you. But it was great.
Yeah.
But if you could do a hike and mass during Advent, to take that time to get outside of where you're at and just to be in the beauty of nature, in community, and it's a lot safer being outside than indoors right now. Yep. So that might be a good option. And like I said, if you have snow, then make it a snowshoe trip with mass too. But yeah, those are just some of the things that I had done in the past during Advent that usually had fabulous turnout. And we would get many new people that would come and join us who hadn't come before for something else. And so they would see that we're going snowshoeing, and then we're like, yeah, and we're gonna have mass too. And they're like, oh, cool, I haven't been to mass in 2 years. And you're like, awesome, come join us. And then after that, they would keep on coming. Not awesome that they hadn't been to mass, but awesome that they came. So yeah, and then from there, they started coming to all the other stuff too. And then they were going for adoration, they were joining Bible studies, and every time we did it, it was fabulous. So I would suggest something where you're doing something outdoors and incorporating the sacraments with it.
And you can call to mind, Mary and Joseph's pilgrimage, at the same time, like, hey, it's a pilgrimage to Mass, maybe,
And just to build off what Sister was just saying, I was going to say that the sacraments, there might be a long time since young adults have been able to get to confession, or you've even done a holy hour, so maybe do a special Advent holy hour or Advent Mass with confession opportunity, and then afterwards you can do like the building of the wreaths or the hiking or anything like that. So I was going to say, maybe offer some type of unique targeted opportunity for young adults to get in front of the Blessed Sacrament and get to confession during Advent.
And real quick, one of the things Deacon Chris just typed in, he said a thing that we're all saying here all applies to the various groups, parish, young, old, young adult. So it's a good ministry model for everybody. But that's why I think that the ministry models with young adults are going to pioneer our models for everybody else in the church. So yeah. Thank you all so much. That was wonderful. Paul, go ahead. Take it away.
Well, I think, so, one of the things that was great about this was the innovative thinking that was going on here. And in a way, we kind of are modeling a little of what I think we're being called to now post-pandemic or whatever, wherever we're at in this journey. But we're called to think in new ways. And one of the things that we want to do is in December, every 2 years we have a national leadership forum for ministry with young adults. And this year it's, of course, because of everything, we're doing it virtually. We were going to be with Tracy in New Orleans, but we're instead going to be online. So just imagine you're in New Orleans, like, I don't know, have some jambalaya, have some po' boys, and, come up to your computer. So for the week of December 7 through 11, we're going to be having a national leadership forum on ministry with young adults, Arise, a ministry with young adults in a time of innovation. So it's going to be a week. There's going to be different things during that week. We're going to have some webinars, some conversations. We're going to have networking opportunities, videos, prayer opportunities. So it's going to be a whole week of stuff. We'll be getting out a calendar very soon, but we wanted to just draw this to your attention and to save those dates, December 7th through 11. The registration for that whole week is just $30. So we'll have the registration information. We'll have all the details for you very soon. But we wanted to get this on your calendar right away because I think this, and it's happening in Advent, December 7th through 11. It's the second week of Advent. So one thing you can do for Advent this year, you as ministers, you as leaders, is to join us and to join your peers for this gathering. Because we're looking to have, well over 100 and some people, maybe more, maybe 200 and some, gather together. So if you want to hear from, if you want to network with your peers on this important topic, this webinar is just really a taste. But this week-long experience will be kind of almost like the giant feast that you just got a taste of today. And so we're really looking forward to what's going to come up. So save those dates.
One of the things I'll chime with that is that I'm in a bunch of things that had at conferences, and so now they're kind of trying to figure out how to do these virtually coming up soon. And I keep thinking to myself, I would have been there. I would have blocked the time off and I would have been there. And so it's hard, like, oh, I can't schedule a meeting for that time because, so I encourage you, it's hard to do if you are at home and family, and I do understand all of that. But if there's things that you can do with your work to say, no, this is my time, this is my professional development, this is my time to feed my soul in my ministry, block those days off from meetings. Say those are days where I'm not having Zoom calls. In a conference, tell everybody I'm sorry I'm in a conference. That's what I'm going to try and do. So I just share that as a reality I've been
and it's not
lately.
just and it's not just for people who have a young adult ministry title in their name. It's intentional the way it's worded there. Forum on ministry with young adults, which means your pastor can come to this, which means that the director of religious education, which means your volunteers can come to this. And since we're having things in the evening and the daytime, they can pick it up. They're going to have videos so they can watch it on demand. So there'll be opportunities for anyone who touches the lives of young adults in any way, shape, or form in the Catholic community. And that's pretty much everybody. So if the entire Catholic Church wants to show up that entire week, we would be perfectly fine with this because the entire Catholic Church does ministry with young adults. So I think Pope Francis has got a spot. I think we're going to register him. I think. Well, we'll see.
Yes.
I'll see if he's free.
Hey, he registered for one of ours.
I'll try. We'll try and get him. Yeah. And then we in November we're going to have a webinar in November. So look out for a date for that. But Pope Francis has got his new encyclical Fratelli Tutti, and we're going to have a webinar basically focused on how do those who minister with youth and young adults, how can they connect in with this important landmark document? So that'll be the topic of our November webinar. So we're spending between now and then really reading it and kind of digesting it, and then finding out ways that we're going to be able to really live that out. So more details on that will be forthcoming. And then, of course,
the other webinar we'll have in November is sort of just preparing you all, kind of getting the themes and topics in mind, how we're going to move into the forum in December. We'll have 2 webinars in November, one unpacking Tutti for young adults and in ministry with young, and then we're also going to just, you know, get us prepared, have a webinar getting us all prepared for what's to come in November with the forum.
Wonderful.
So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for our attendees, most gracious. Thank you for our panelists, for Sister Bernadette, and Barbara and Nick. It was just such a joy hearing from you all. You have such gifts in ministry with young adults, especially innovative ideas to really engage Advent in a time and setting, and to really focus our ministries on the presence and gifts that young adults are for us and the needs that they have. So I'm so grateful for Paul and then Brenda in the background. Thank you for joining us today, and for everybody who joined us today. And if you want to know more, you know, our programs and degree programs at the Loyola for Ministry, give me an email. It's on your, and it's probably all emails that you get from me on webinars now. So definitely reach out if you like. And thank you all again so very much. We're grateful for your time.
Take care and God bless everyone.